Back. It's me, Ian. And in today's video, we're going to look at this. Yes, it's The Skull from 1965. And it's an Amicus production, not a Hammer one. Haha, yes. This was their first full-length film, because Amicus had started off with the Doctor Terror film with Peter Cushing, which was an anthology film, which they were to be known and specialized for. Basically, Amicus' ambition was to rival Hammer. Hammer were leading the way, and their brand of horror would be not the Gothic style, but it would be in the modern times, at the current times. So this film was their first attempt at pushing that forward and hoping that they would gain some success. And, well, to some extent, this was successful. Now, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 53%. And I think that kind of sums up the critics of the time. They were not over enthusiastic about it, but they didn't totally dismiss it. It's got that sort of middle kind of feeling if you look at it. It's 83 minutes long. Now, it's directed by Freddie Francis. Now, Freddie Francis worked with Hammer as well. Well, there's The Evil of Frankenstein, which he did in 1964. He also, of course, directed the first Amicus film, Doctor Terror, House of Horrors. Then he did other things for Amicus, The Deadly Bees, 1967, The Torture Garden, more of these kind of anthology films he did for Amicus, which became their sort of trademark speciality. I think in this film, he's such an important part of the film in many, many ways. We'll discuss that just a little bit later. But this is based on a short story by Robert Bloch. Now, Robert Bloch was famous for writing Psycho. Yes, that's what his story was, Psycho. And this was from a story called The Skull of the Marquis de Sade. And it was from one of those kind of amazing kind of books that they produced, almost like the Penny Dreadful ones that were in a sort of modern way. They really look exciting. Anyhow, they produced this story amongst many others, and this was taken by one of the main founders of Amicus, Milton Subotsky, and he was a great fan of horror films. And he read this and decided to adapt it to a screenplay. And that's what he did. Apparently, in about 5 days, he wrote this. It was a very short time that he actually put this together, this screenplay. And that, you see, was an interesting point, because when it came to filming, they found there wasn't enough actual screen time on this particular script. Therefore, it came to Freddie Francis to be very creative, to stretch it out, to get the 83 minutes. He had to do rewrites. He had to be very creative in his filming, and this is what happened. But that is where the origins of the film come from, that particular short story. The cast is really an excellent cast. It's headed by Peter Cushing, of course. Now, again, the idea gets some credibility from these Hammer actors. And Peter Cushing seemed perfect for the role. Then, if you have a look, we've got Patrick Wymark. Now, he's a real sort of seasoned actor at that time, and he's very good as well. I sort of remember in particular, he's in The Witchfinder General in a very small role as Oliver Cromwell. You can't say fairer than that. Oliver Cromwell, yes. And one of my favourite all-time war films, Where Eagles Dare, he plays a very important part in that film. Yeah, just a bit of trivia thrown in for you. Then we've got, under the guise of special guest, Christopher Lee. So you can see the logic there. He doesn't have as big a role, obviously, in this film, but it's so good to see his interaction with Peter Cushing. It's fantastic watching it. And he plays a good guy in this film, does Christopher Lee. He's great. He just, like Peter Cushing, it just comes across so well as an actor. The interaction between the two is fantastic, and they must have been so pleased to get him, even though it's only for a limited amount in the film. It's great to see him. Then we have the major female actress is Jill Bennett, who was again a standard actress of that time. Michael Gough, yes, he's all recognisable. Patrick McGee, oh yes, he's another one who pops up everywhere. This is the quality of the cast in this film, so that always adds, I think, a great deal to the film. Now, when the film starts, you're thinking, hey, this looks a bit like a Hammer film, because you get the grave robbing kind of sequence where we actually see them get the skull. It's a flashback. And then we move forward into the modern times. But he sets the atmosphere in a great way. And then we get into the modern times. And the story then propels forward about the character that Peter Cushing plays. He's called Christopher Maitland, and he is a researcher, writer, and he collects these artifacts, and that's where it all comes from. This skull that he gets from the Patrick Wymark character called Marco, who's a bit of a shady, dodgy character, but he can get all this sort of stuff. It's, he claims it's the skull of the Marquess de Sade, and this is how the story gets going. But of course, this skull is very sort of filled with evil, and this is where we get the supernatural side of the story, and I won't give too much away, though the story is really quite simple. And it progresses in that way. And I think what is, as I say, I mentioned it before, is the way the director is able to create such a lot, because he had to, basically. He had no choice. And it works so well. I mean, some of the shots, when we see, like just in the study of where uh, Peter Cushing is, just fantastic. There's a scene where he's sat reading, and the camera just pans around, and you get all these wonderful artifacts. You see them, and again, this is a way of stretching the film out if you want to work, but it doesn't feel that. It works so well. It just looks. It looks great. It's so interesting. Just seeing it, you're sat there thinking, "Wow, the cinematography is just fantastic." And there's that kind of use of color as well in the shots, which I think works well. It's a real visual treat. And then, you get people going, "Hey, look, Mars, these special effects look a bit dodgy." Well, I don't think they do. I think they're very effective, the special effects. I mean, what he actually does with the skull, he really makes it very, very creepy. And it's just an amazing special effect. It really is. And it's excellent. This is 1965. And wow, it's great. There is, again, another interesting sequence. There's like this dream sequence in it. And it's very interesting. It's very sort of kind of off-putting to some extent. And that's the idea that the way that this evil is, it's almost got a sort of Kafkaesque, sort of strange feel to it, about these anonymous kind of people who have kidnapped him and put him towards justice. And it's, I don't know, it's really interesting. It really is. This, in a way, it fits into the film. What this film does is it really elevates everything. And that is all due to the direction of Freddie Francis and, of course, the superb acting of the cast. And what more can you ask for a film? This is a first feature film from Amicus, and what a start. But you feel, it's when you look now at the history, that this is more, in many ways, by accident. Well, not by accident, but it was a lucky choice that they picked this director who was able to do that. In lesser hands, this film would not be considered, I don't think, in the same way. If it was just down to the basic story, it wouldn't have been elevated like it is by this director. And I think that is a fantastic tribute. It's a great start for Amicus in a full-length version, especially following the acclaim that the Dr. Terror anthology film had got. So Amicus were on their way. But ultimately, they were always going to be second to Amma, though I think they certainly wanted to challenge them. And they brought a refreshing challenge in many ways as well to Amma, that they weren't just in the Gothic set. And of course, Amma eventually would move. It had to move away from some of the Gothic kind of stories it was telling, but it was so good at it that it did carry on. As I say, we've talked about it before, how Hammer developed. But this is a great film, and I really enjoy it. It's the kind of film that you watch I think, wow. And then you watch it again and think, wow. And it's a real enjoyable time and by me when I watch this, honestly. Now, this, just a quick few words, is from Eureka. There's a DVD as well as the Blu Ray in here. And then you have this lovely booklet. There's a lovely booklet here. Look at this booklet. It's excellent. And then there's text as well. I mean, what a wonderful package this. It's still available. You can still get this. And there's also some nice extras. A couple of real good interviews with writers discussing about this film. Very informative. I really enjoyed that. So this is The Skull from 1965. And it's well worth you having a look. Definitely. I think you might really enjoy and appreciate it. It really is. I can't not highly recommend it. It's just fantastic. It is. It's great. It's a great film. So that's it. All I'm going to say is, as usual, subscribe so we can let you know when I produce these videos. And if you like it, please give it a like. It costs no. I always say that, but it's true. So, all I've got to say is, I'll see thee, and I'll see thee again.